Why did you just? Why did you just literally leave?
I moved my phone and it hit the spacebar.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. I want to say a special good morning to Andrew because he was waiting 5 minutes before it on
There's
the
a
TV
few people waiting
to start.
There's a few people waiting with anticipation and excitement for probably.
Oh yeah, this is a highly desirable podcast, mate. Everyone's ready and going.
In demand type people, you know. So it's big news when we're live. How's it going? How's everyone's weekend been? How's life? Is it as wet for everyone as it is here?
Do you know what? Right now is the first time this year I've looked out of my window and it's not pissing down with rain, to be honest with you.
I want to put this sofa outside. I decided last week, obviously, that I wanted to put this sofa outside and try and get someone to take it. There hasn't been a single day gone by where it's been the opportunity to put this stuff outside because it's just been absolutely tipping it down every single day. And I don't have a big cover for it. And even if I have a big cover for it, the bottom would just get soaking wet. So I don't know what I do.
Even if you put a cover for it, it has to be clear. Otherwise, no one knows what's going on.
Just a big ambiguous
black tarpaulin over it. No one. You've just got some tarpaulin in your alleyway.
I got nothing. I want to put it outside, but I can't because it would just be a swamp. But obviously, I feel like we now need to intro the title. Now we're a bit more professional. We're trying to be a bit more professional about it. Introing the title a little bit and what we're kind of going to talk about later. This is probably one of our most confusing titles, I feel like, in terms of ambiguity. And it's mostly just talking about the fact that I've gone back to charity shopping for the first time in 6 months, I think. Yeah. I've been to the one right next door to me, but like a proper one of my routes. I went on my first route in ages. So that'll be fun to talk about later. And then also you want to talk about some of your spatial issues.
Oh yeah, we've got loads of spatial issues.
But aside from that, obviously we got to start with the classic. Firstly, how's your weekend? And how's everyone else's weekend? What have we been up to? What's happened in our weekends? Or our week? I guess it's a week since we've seen you. So what's happened on the week? But you can go first. They'll catch up.
My weekend is it's actually been pretty good. Like sales have been good. Like in terms of like just the actual reselling side of things. eBay and Vinted have both been good. I was just telling you before that we sold 16 on Vinted yesterday, but a lot of that was me treating Vinted like everybody else seems to think it is, which is a clearance platform. I was just getting rid of some of the stuff that I don't want anymore at the store. So we've had a massive operation of culling a lot of stuff out of eBay. So this is interesting. Even yesterday, I was taking photos of these items that have been on my store for probably 6 to 9 months, maybe even a little bit longer. And I was still, when you still get that little bit of like, I'm not sure if I would pick this up now, but it's not a bad item. Like it was a women's one. So again, women's for like crossover brands like Burghouse and stuff like inherently hold a little bit less value than the men's, like predominantly, right? And there was a Mountain Hardware gilet, goose and feather down or whatever. And it had been in my store for like 9 months. No one's picked it up. I listed it at 10 quid yesterday. And do you know how many people sent me £6 offers? It was mental. And there was a guy called
resellers.
There was a guy called Gilets Are Us or Gilets Are Us. And all he bangs out is North Face and Burghouse gilets, left, right, and center. And he was offering me £6, and I just kept declining it. And he went to 7, then he went to 8, and I was just like, bruh. And then in the end, he offered 9, and because I used Vintex to send out 10% offers, it would have sent him at £9 if he followed it anyway. So I just accepted the 9. But it was genuinely insane to me how many offers were getting sent out on things that like were absolutely fucking good, like good pieces for somebody to sell for like 25, 30 quid. And that annoyed me because I was like, I should just list it for this, but it's also part of my clear out process, right? Like I've had it for a really long time and I just wanted to see the back of it and I wanted to get some money. And Operation £3,000, which was something that I said in the group, which is I was trying to make £3,000 this week and I was trying to clear out. However, what I will say is there is not enough hours. And I think if a day was twice as long, I still wouldn't have time to do all the things that I need to do. Like genuinely, it's insane. And
sounds like poor time management.
No. And I'm about to go in here. So I knew because I'm pretty sure was it Hanley said to me, she said, "Oh, it just sounds like bad management, time management." And I was like, genuinely, I have got so much and I know she's doing way more than I am, and I'm like, I don't know how, because yesterday I was doing photos and I was testing electricals, picturing electricals, doing all my process. I was there for 4 hours, and I didn't go on my phone to do anything else once. I didn't go onto my phone to go onto Instagram or anything like that. I just did the thing. And I did it like I wasn't trying to speed through it. I wasn't going slowly. I was just doing it at a steady pace that I know that I would be able to be consistent, right? And it just takes forever to do everything you want to do. It's so long. And I'm getting really tired of not having a week as a day. We need to just change it so that we can have
a week as a day. I
need so much more time than I've got. It's crazy.
Need like 140 hours just
140 hour days, mate, honestly.
Yeah, in the words of Molly, mate, we all have the same 24 hours, mate.
No, I'm not having that. But it's really interesting, and I don't know whether it's because of the way that my brain works, and I struggle to stick on task a lot of times. So I wonder if I'm not thinking about the fact that I'm on other things when I am on other things. So yesterday I was doing photos for 4 hours. And in my head, I didn't deviate once. But I also know that my brain, like, I'll do 4 sets of photos and then I'll be on Instagram for half an hour and then I'll go and do another 4 sets of photos, right? But in my head, I didn't do any of that yesterday.
You need like a Big Brother-esque household.
Yeah, what I need to do, right, is I need to have a live stream camera in my dining room pointing at the thing, like looking at that. And then I need somebody just watching over me. And every single time I go to do something that isn't my task, an alarm sounds off in my dining room.
Can I put a shot collar on you and you live stream to me?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then every single
time
live
stream me, up in the corner and I'll watch you. And if you ever get off task, I'll just shock you back on.
So this is something that I tried to do. Laidman's Loft. I can never remember names. I'm so bad at it. So apologies.
I'm pretty sure that's Joe. I want to say, is it music?
No, I don't. I'm so bad at remembering names.
I don't know. I see the magpie and I assume it's Joe.
So I've got an iPad in my dining room, and the idea was that I would put music on my iPad or put a YouTube video on my iPad, and then I wouldn't go on my phone to change anything. Reese, that's it.
Reese. I saw the magpie and Joe's.
Reese was in the group as well. Early days. But yeah, so I've got an iPad in there so that I can watch YouTube and I can listen to music through the iPad, and I've got the JBL speaker and everything so that I don't get distracted with my phone. So I'm trying my best, but I don't know whether it's just the way that I like to fucking deviate from what I'm doing all the time, and I struggle to stay consistent on one task. So
I mean, it also depends what you're doing, right? Like if you're, for example, if you're saying you're cleaning electronics, it's just not a fast process. Like there's just no, like, it is time intensive to do stuff like that. It's like, realistically, that's what I said this to you when you were switching to, well, thought about switching to electronics or picking them up more, right? I was like, you trade out one thing for another. So even though they're like more profitable and stuff like that, it's also the time to get them ready to list and the time to pack them and everything like that is so significantly more that you don't know how it evens out realistically. Because if you might be able to do 10 pieces of electronics and clean them and test them in the time you'd be able to do like 30 pieces of clothing, 40 pieces of clothing. So yeah, it's interesting. So
this kind of ties into, so I'm foreshadowing and going a bit further ahead of you, but this ties massively into space and one of the things that I've struggled with. So I'll briefly touch on it now, which is I've really struggled because my dining room, you've seen it, it's like rails on the right hand side with clothing that are ready to be listed. Then I've got my board, and then on the left hand side I've got the clear bags and my table so that I can.
I would be hesitant to call it a dining room at this point.
No, it's definitely not.
I don't think the dining room exists under there anymore.
But I put my numbers on, and then it goes in an IKEA bag ready to go to the unit, right? So it goes around in a nice flow. However, it's changed since you were last there. But basically, where my left hand side bit is now, I've got my board out of the cupboard. And I put that there so that I can connect my stuff to the TV so that I can do testing and stuff like that.
Has Harry seen it?
No, he hasn't. No.
he
he just knows me. That's all it is. But the problem is that the space that it takes to have all of the equipment so for instance, I've got the TV on the wall, which is fine. You can just HDMI or SCART into whatever you're doing, right? That's great. But then I've got to have a pair of speakers because if I'm testing audio equipment, and then I've got to have all the power cables and all that, and then you've got to be able to clean it, and like it just takes so long, and you need so much more space to do all of the electronic side of things that I'm sort of so my in-laws, is that what you call them? Tasha's dad and his wife came round yesterday, and it was the dining room was in the state that you saw it in, right? Probably a little bit worse, to be honest. And they were like what is the plan here? And I'm like, do you know how hard it is, right? So when you're scaling and you're leveling up, right, there comes a point where you need to grow it and get a bigger space, right? But then there's so many factors that go into that. Number one is cash flow and finances, right? You've got to be able to afford to do it. But also, two, is you've got to find somewhere that's good enough for you to be able to do it. And then not only have you got to be able to find somewhere that's good enough for you to do it, but somewhere that you can also scale in. Because there's no point in moving somewhere that is twice as big as what you've got, but then in 2 months' time, you're already at that level again, and then you've got to move again. So you need a little bit of wiggle room when it comes to the scaling side there. And now I'm sort of caught in this crossroads where I'm already scaling for somewhere that for a space that I don't actually have. So I'm really struggling with this balance of trying to make it work. Now, what that means for us is that my front room doesn't have anywhere to sit, and there's no floor space because there's electronics, there's clothing, there's everything ready to go, because I only have storage containers, and I don't like to keep unlisted stock in storage containers. So I'm in this little counter argument with myself where I'm really struggling to get to the next level. But to get to the next level, I have to be consistent with the stuff I'm currently doing. And that's just, it's real big space issue.
Is there not a way you can like taper this to be able to get to a point more functionally, but also maintain your space for the moment until you find the new space? Like, because I feel like you've gone crazy with this. Like realistically, you've decided this is how you're going to scale, and then you, instead of like thinking about it, you just balls to the wall started buying everything for the purpose of what you're trying to do without accounting for anything else that's going on in your business, it feels like.
I agree, and I would say that this is one of my downfalls, but it's also one of the things that has got me to a point of where I am now, because without that attitude of deciding that that's what I'm going to do and then going head first into it, without that attitude in general, I would be nowhere near where I am now.
Like, I don't disagree with that, right? But like, obviously, that you can take that to a point, and it doesn't mean you stop like going for it. It just means you allow yourself. Like, I don't know if to you it feels like if you stop, then you give up on it. In the same sense,
it's not about giving up, right? I have this like I've talked about it before about running away from like previous self and stuff like that. And I don't like going backwards when I know I can go forward. So I'm all up for going up and scaling, and then knowing I can't do anymore or it's not working, and then coming back down, right? I don't mind that. But if it's working, there is absolutely no part of my brain that goes, oh, like I'm going to have to go back down because
what counts as working?
Well, again, I was just saying briefly before this. This week has been my best week on eBay, period. Like, in not even last year beat it, like in terms of like turnover for last week. So in my head, I'm like, this is working in terms of like the only thing I need to do to catch up to what I'm doing now is a bigger space so that I can do it more functionally. And again, I think this is something that I've spoken to Tasha about, and we have debates on this, but there is obviously a common sort of thought that if you go to somebody's house, they will have a front room and they will have a dining room and stuff like that. But I spend 1% of my time in a month in my front room. And that was if it was empty. If it had the settee and it had the TV and there was nothing in it, I would spend 1% of my time in there. So in my head, having a $2,000 settee and a 60-inch TV means fuck all. Like, it doesn't matter to me. But if somebody comes round, that looks normal. But if I took those settees out and took the TV out and didn't have a front room and just filled it with stock, people would think we're mental. But that is what I would do, because I'm not about the common commonality of like what people. We're trying to build something here, and to build something, you've got to do what you've got to do. And in my head, I don't need the approval of anybody else other than myself. And me and Tasha debate on this because she is much more of a I would like a front room, and that's fine, and that's why the front room stays. And you know, for a couple of days every year, it's clear and tidy. But yeah, I don't sit and think to myself, oh, somebody's going to come around and they're going to look at my front room, which is a storage section, and be like, oh, what are you doing living like this? Because I couldn't give a fuck what they say, because my goal is to go to a level that they are never going to be at, like what they're doing. So I'm not listening to what they've got to say. And we've had a lot of chat in the side here that I have not looked at. So I'm assuming there might be some not Team Chris's here, but we'll go with it.
I mean, Katie said, do you need a space if you can run a small store and have no death pile? I mean, you can answer that, but I think it really, really depends on what it is you're doing, right? Like,
yeah. So I've always said this, and people disagree, and this is something that I've disagreed, I believe, with you and Kaylee on, which is a death pile doesn't exist, and it's not a death pile. If you've got a death pile, you're not listed enough. Now, I have a death pile, but my goal is to go up in listings, right? And once I get the space, that allows me the time and the ease of being able to do the things, which means I can go up in listings, right? Which means there will be less of a death pile because I'll be able to go up in listings, right? If you've got a container full of stock that's unlisted and you're not contemplating going up in listings, that's a death pile. My goal is so that I can get to a point where I can move up to the next level in my head of 25, and then we can push through. The goal for me at the moment is 20 items going up every single day that's clothing, and 10 items going up every single day that's electronics. That's the goal right now. But at this moment in time, I don't have enough of either to be able to do it. So I'm currently listing 20, maybe 22 on a day if I've got a couple of electricals. And then once the car boots kick in and I can go and get more stock, then we can really push into the next level.
How far off are you? Are you sure? Do you actually know?
No, because the real difficulty at the moment is actually the clothing side. We have a lot of electronics. We have a lot of electronics ready to list. But again, the problem with the electronics isn't necessarily listing them; it's testing them. That's the biggest hard part for me, to be able to get everything done. But you got to remember, 2 days of my week are pretty much a write-off. Monday and Tuesdays are pretty much write-offs, as you well know. And then obviously I would work a lot in evenings, but those are for the most part those are write-offs. And then not the issue, but the downside to the group and the evenings that we do spend is that I have 3 evenings a week where we don't do any calls and stuff, and I feel like it's a necessary time then to not work in the evenings and spend time with Tasha, because we don't get to spend as much time in the evenings together. So those 3 evenings so basically I don't work past like 6 o'clock on most days now, and maybe if I'm late I'll do a few bits after calls and stuff at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, but for the most part I try to get it all done before 6 o'clock. The downside realistically is that sourcing clothing on Vinted is an all-day process. So Tasha goes to do all of the postage and stuff and collection of all the parcels, and then her job from that moment on pretty much is to sit on Vinted all day and buy. And then my job is to take photos, process electronics. I will also sit on auctions. I will also sit on whatnot, and I will also be looking for like car boots and stuff whenever they're on and stuff like that. So we are probably this far away from going up to 25 and being comfortable and being happy. The only issue then is generally space, and that's why I was talking about space. And yes, I can see Kaylee say run a smaller store and stuff like that, but my sell-through rate is around the 90 to 120 days roughly. Like it's that kind of margin, and in terms of space, and I could get better at sourcing and therefore try and speed it up, or I could lower prices and try and speed it up. But obviously, because we're sniping on Vinted, there's a smaller margin in general there, based on the fact that there's extra. So it's a real balance and act, and I'm trying my best to make it work. And whether I do that right or wrong is only up to me and Tasha, really. Obviously, I listen to everyone's opinions, I respect everyone's opinions, but I have to I have to do what I think is right, and you know as well as I do, I will do what I think is right. So,
yeah, I want to come back around to it though, right? Because I felt like you said some kind of conflicting stuff there, which is obviously what your goal is to do 20 and 10, and therefore you're scaling to accommodate that. But if you're scaling to accommodate that and you don't have the time already, where are you going to get the time from?
From the space. So at the moment we've got
the space.
We've got 3 storage containers. I've got a shed, and I'm working out of the dining. You've seen the dining room, right? Like I'm working out of that space. Everything I have to do gets processed in that space. But if you have the ability where, say for instance, you go to a unit, you pack all your orders, but at the same time as packing the orders, you've got somebody photographing the clothing. By the time that's done, then you've got somebody sourcing, then you've got somebody testing electricals, but everything is set up and ready to go. And then you can pre-pack the electricals, which I can't do at the moment. So you can pre-pack all the electricals so that the postage is even quicker, and you can speed up that process. So the space is the problem at the moment, because once I get the space, everything becomes easier, because at the moment I'm trying to use the same space for 2 different niches, which is, as well as, you know, if I said to you, all right, you've got to start photographing DVD players and stuff in your area, and you've got to start packing in your area, you're gonna have to add extra in there, and it's just gonna.
But stop. I can't. So I think for efficiency, I do understand the prospect of that. Hey, if I had more space, I could efficiently handle this all better.
Yeah, but it's the efficiency of everything. Is
I don't think you'd claw back, like, because from what you've said, right, in terms of what you're handling and what the things are slowing you down, I don't think the space would claw back the time in the day you need to achieve everything you're trying to achieve, plus the extra listings. I don't see how you're going to get the time to list the 10 electronics, as well as source the 20 clothing, as well as source the 10 electronics, as well as list it and test it, and as well as packaging. Even with the space, I don't think it compensates for the position you're in terms of just the time you have available to try and get this done in the way you're doing it.
But in my head, it moves the needle enough to be able to figure it out. And again, I have work in progress, right? Like I have never said that I am going to be right, although I do say I am going to be right. But my point is, that was conflicting, yes. But no, like in my head, I'm doing what I think will work, right? And you know as well as I do, is I will front run into this, and then if it doesn't work, I'm more than happy to go, oh, it didn't work for that reason. I can come back down and then assess and try and move to the next thing. But in my head, so one of the great things about auctions in general is that you can leave pre-bids and not worry about it. So you can put your maximum bid in, you can leave that. So auctions don't take that much time. The research does a little bit if you're going to go through big lots and stuff like that. But realistically, I think time efficiency is definitely one thing that I need to work on. I do need to try and do better at that. But I think with a combination of having more space and a better workflow, and just trying to, and also when I put more pressure on myself and I start fucking going, I'm going to do 50 a day and I've got all this stuff stacked up, I'm just going to work better. I always have done. I say it all the time. I like to be a little bit stressed, not too stressed because I'll have a meltdown, but I like to be a little stressed, have a little bit of pressure, because that's gonna be my optimum work ethic and workflow. The laziest I was last year when I was doing sourcing and I was getting 20 comfortably every day on Vinted. I didn't go to any car booths, I didn't go to any charity shops, and I was like sitting around trying to fucking make AI systems and stuff, right? And I was spending seven hours a day doing that. That was when I was least efficient, because I just didn't have anything else to do. I was like, I could have done more, but I was like, nah, that's fine. We're just chilling. So the more pressure and the more I have to do, the better I'll work.
I'm going to go
all the way back. Let's find out what people have been saying. Let's go.
Where do we need to go back to? So first, I just look at Kaylee's question, but obviously this isn't in regards to you. Obviously, I don't think with what you're doing, you could have the small store. I just don't think it. I mean, if you had an electrical store, you might be able to have a much smaller store because the sell-through rate is so much faster. But I think because it would be electricals, you'd still require space. So it's like even in that, I think to have a small store, and I think having a small store is definitely possible in clothing. and being hyper specific about what you're picking up. And I think Vinted is a very good way to do that, like being able to run a small store and do that. But I think in a lot of other niches, it's very difficult. Like you couldn't tell Hanley to have a small store and it wouldn't, and live at home and have a space to do that. I just don't think it'd be possible, especially considering the sourcing option.
Do you think that? So this is an interesting concept, right? Because there are some people that do believe that small stores and big stores will perform the same. So the reason she's got so many is because she's constantly gone up in listings, right? And therefore it's taken some time at some point for listings and sales to catch up, right? Mm-hmm. But if she removed everything from her store and listed the 40 or 50 or whatever she's doing these days in listings every day, do you think she would be able to maintain the same amount of sales, or do you think it wouldn't be like, or even if you reduce the store to like 500 listings?
The reason she's got a big store is not only because she's gone up in listing, it's the same for anyone. Most of it's about sell-through rate. So, and with her items, no matter if she restarted, no, she wouldn't be able to keep the same because her items that she picks up are so varied that she doesn't have the like in her sourcing method the ability to only pick up stuff that she is going to sell in a week.
Because that's car parts, right? Let's use you as an example. You've started listing again with a 150, 200 item store. Mm-hmm. And what are your sales look like?
Way better. So there's 100% an argument to be made is if your store gets super inflated and you feel like you're way better than when you started that store, is to kill it and murder most of the stuff in it that you don't think is good, which is basically what I went through the process of doing, and then restarting it with how good you currently think you are. And I think mine has been. I obviously I'm not back at 10 a day. Like I'm listing 10 a day, but I'm probably selling around. I think I average like 7, 8, and this weekend it might be 10. I guess
it's hard for you to compare based on the fact that you're now listing on Vinted as well, right?
Yeah. So that makes it a lot better, right? Yeah. So that massively compensates for the sell-through rate of things. Like Vinted is just a machine for that. But with the same size store and well, you can even take that. Like my knowledge is better. I'm aware that Vinted brings this benefit. I restarted my store using Vinted, and I can almost have the same sell-through rate with 5 times less the size of a store. Like with a fifth of the amount of the stuff I had from 1,500 items to like 300 is crazy to me. And so I think if you do get like improve at some point, you can restart and be in a much better position where you don't need all that space and you can cull and kind of fix it. But the best thing to do is try not to get yourself in that position in the first place. But I think it's incredibly difficult sometimes.
I think it is when you start going up in listings, right? Because predominantly
you'll grow. Like you have.
Yeah, if you've got 1,000 listed and then you're like, I'm good. And then you get better and then you start listing 20 when you were listing 10. Like initially there is going to be a big jump of like listings, right? You're just going to go crazy. But
unless you're picking up literally like
fire
perfect items all day, every day, which some people can. But like if, for example, if I was charity shopping and doing it, there's no chance because I could not pick up that stuff. If I was vintage sniping, there's a possibility that I could pick as fire items as possible. Even though I'd still think I'd struggle because I'd probably still be inclined to pick up stuff that isn't just the bangers. So yeah, it's possible, but I think it's very difficult. And if you're growing, then your store will grow naturally because it takes time for things to catch up. If your sell-through rate isn't 100% straight off the rip, pretty much, which is interesting.
Right, we're half an hour in. Do you want to rip through some of the questions so that we don't leave people out? And then
I'm going back now.
Second bit.
Harry just said, "Is this not what you do with absolutely everything?" Yes.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Andrew says, "Move to Ryle
or
Rill and buy a warehouse, assuming it's cheap there."
Yeah, there was a massive warehouse for 60 grand in Rill.
Thrifted by Charlie said, "Definitely sounds like office space is needed. It's just finding good sized ones that aren't crazy money, which is hard to put apart."
Yeah, it's the hardest part of what I've been dealing with because office space isn't big enough and is more expensive. And then the unit like warehousey type ones are cheaper, But for me, where I am, they're going to be a 30-minute drive. And maybe I'm being a bit of a pretty princess about this and not wanting to.
I think you probably are.
Maybe I'm being a bit of a bitch about the fact that I want it to be. All it is because my free storage containers are within a minute drive. So it is so easy and so efficient for us.
Are you going to keep them there, or are they all going to be housed?
No, they're all going to be gone once.
So then, like, does it matter?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But maybe I just need to look slightly further afield. I don't know.
I think a 20-minute, 30-minute commute for like an all-in-one is completely reasonable, realistically.
Yeah, I think so as well. But maybe I'll have to look into it a bit more. But it's been really tough to find somewhere at the moment.
And Tash can really, I mean, Tash could stay at home and still snipe. She doesn't need to come with you necessarily if she doesn't want to.
Well, we need to do. The problem is that someone needs to do postage, right?
Yeah.
So, and if it's all there.
Katie said, but what about profit? What does eBay turnover matter if you're spending thousands on stock and storage?
Well, I mean,
I think this was probably in regards to your best week.
Yeah. Well, profit on this week has been fantastic because I was saying to you that the Panasonic I sold for 300, that's 150 to 160 pound profit. So
I guess she more means the cash flow of it, right? Because if you're even if you had a really good week, if you're overbuying and you can't process it due to your space, then
my entire business has been doing that for 3 years, and I've run into minor problems, but I've said this to you before, but I don't run with like 10, 20 grand in the bank. That's not the way I do. If I've got 10, 20 grand in the bank, I'll find somewhere to buy more stuff, and then I will try and push up in listings. That's the goal. Like if me and Kaylee at this moment in time, I think have got slightly different like approaches to what we like. I'm really wanting to go up to the next level at the moment. I think Kaylee's relatively happy where she is at the moment. So like I think there's a different like I wanted to realistically, if I could, I'd be listing 50 a day. Like it's just I'm just working towards that at the moment. Like I want to keep pushing and keep going, and I don't and as much money, like if you looked at my bank and looked at how much money has gone in versus how much is gone out, there's probably about 1,000 or 2 difference in that.
Where does that stop? Right? Because like obviously you were super happy. So this is funny to me because when you're saying that the most relaxed you were or the least efficient you were was when you were chilling and just doing 20 a day easily. But it was also the most healthy your business had been by like a long way. And you were like, wow, it's like actually building up now. This is cool. And then you kind of went ahead and dismantled all that to try and build it up again. But when do you stop building it up? When do you actually let stuff accumulate and your business do the things you've put in place for?
When I want to is essentially the answer. It's not. There is no number, there is no goal, there is no idea of like when it will stop. It's just whenever I get to the point where I don't want to do that anymore. Okay. And at this moment in time, that isn't something that's on my mind. If
that's the case, should you not just at least realistically, the smart decision here is you should separate it, right? Like you should have a reserve in some way, shape, or form just for the well-being of everything in terms of a pot. Like you don't have to. Although I understand that you want to reinvest everything to go up, but like at least having yourself. Actually, I do not do this anyway. Do you not have you were siding stuff off or siphoning stuff off for a savings? Were you not, or is?
I did, and I had about 16 to 18k, like just sat doing nothing. It was just like a little savings pot. And then over December, I was listing 10 a day, but sourcing 20 plus. Every single day. And that was the idea of that was that last year there was a couple of areas and times where I found it difficult to get the 20. So I wanted it to be way more streamlined and way more consistent about not dropping below 20. Because last year I tried to do the same, but before the car boots had started, I basically fell below 20 in terms of listing. And I didn't want that to happen again this year. So I wanted to be way more consistent. And as of right now, it's taken a little bit of time to get the groove on, but we're starting to move now, which is really, really nice.
I'll skip to the end quick, and I think this is interesting. Dig Vintage just said, if you don't build up a reserve, you're just on a faster and faster hamster wheel.
Until I'm not.
or until you fall off.
I'm not. There's and this is something that I'm so passionate about, right? Which is, I don't care if I fall off. Like this whole nervous system around like potentially failing and it all going to shit. This whole thing that I have built with Tasha has come from a £300 investment from a camera that I sold, which I bought for 150 for myself and then sold it for 300. And this whole thing is materialized from that. If I fall off the hamster wheel and it all goes to shit, I'll go and work at McDonald's. I don't care. Like,
Okay,
I don't care. Like I'm more than happy to fail. I'm not asked, because I could work at McDonald's for 6 months or Tesco's for 6 months, accumulate a little bit of money, and I can start again. And I would be way better because I would understand it a little bit quicker and I would just be able to push faster. Like there is no part of me that has any sort of worry about failing in any way, shape, or form. I like it. I don't mind. I'm happy
what I actually wanted to say about this, so funny, because I had to think about this, right? In terms of you overbuying, right? Like the only real issue you will ever run into is the two things. One, you are not making any money and you don't have any more money to buy stuff. But at that point, you've got the stuff you can stop buying, and then all the good stuff that you've picked up that's going to be profitable, you will start listing and stuff like that, and it will come back around. Or the actual bad thing that could happen is, right, you have an unforeseen massive cost that comes in. As long as you're not putting yourself into debt or leveraging to make something like this happen, you're only working off your own cash flow, then
that's all I've ever done. I don't
obviously, again, the only thing would be making sure all the bills are paid and blah blah blah. The only issue that really comes up is stuff like, vans dying, or I don't know, worst case like a medical bill or something like that. That's like where it gets hard. You don't have anything to cover that. You don't have a safety net. But in terms of the actual business failing on its own merits, if you are not over leveraged and if you are not buying stuff that's never going to sell. So for example, if you were overbuying and buying shit, and over and over and over again, you kept buying stuff and it was never going to sell, you never saw your money back, that would be different. But if your business gets to the point where you're running on this hamster wheel and suddenly you just you don't have any more space to run, like the hamster wheel just stops because you've got no money to put back into buying more stuff.
What happens then? You've got 80 to 100 grand's worth of stock that you could sell for 20 grand, 10 grand if you wanted. Somebody would buy like all of that stock for X amount, or you could just do a car boot and get rid of it. Like you could.
Well, if you stopped buying for a week, right? You'd still keep making sales, and your money would suddenly come back in a reasonable.
The difference is right now is I don't need to do that.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, if you got to the point,
future, yes, that's obviously a thing. But this, I understand where Dig Vintage is coming from in terms of like security and stuff like that. I understand all of that, but I'm not in the business of safety and caution. It's not the way I've done things.
I mean,
I understand that other people are way more susceptible to wanting that to be security and all this sort of stuff. But I'm not above just going and getting some bottom end minimum wage job. Like I don't care.
I don't think I understand. It's not about now. It's like, so I think this is something we've looked at around. We've talked about, like, for example, pensions and ISAs and stuff in the group, right? I don't think it's about building security now. It's about siphoning some of it off to build the security in your future. Because if you keep running, like, you're going to have to keep running until the
right. So this is what I say all the time, right? Is last year, right? I could have invested some money, right? Mm-hmm. What would be the average percentage of return on investment if I had gone for the S&P 500?
Last year might have done pretty well, actually. Yeah, I'm just going to say 10%.
Okay. So our business grew from 130 to 185. What's that percentage-wise?
130 to 185. It's probably like a 50% increase, right? 60%.
So who am I going to trust more with my money?
What, in terms of getting return on it? It'll always be better investing in yourself.
I always invest in myself. I don't invest in other people. I invest in myself. I am so confident. I'm so confident that I am going to do well, that I don't need. And Andrew said there it's turnover, not income. Absolutely. But the income's improved, obviously. at the same time. So
you say that, I could not.
it might not have done if you don't know what you're doing, but yes, so my in my head, I am way more confident in anything that I do. I back myself now. 10 years ago, by the way, completely different person, would never back myself, and I was an idiot. But I've grown and I've matured, and I've grown to the person that I like and I trust. Whereas that has not been something that I've been able to say probably about 5 or 6 years ago. So I've got a lot of confidence in my own ability and the way that I do things, and I'm happy to run the risk.
I mean, I understand that. To be honest with you, I think there's two different ways to do it.
Oh, absolutely. By the way, I'm not knocking anybody. If you siphon money off and you've got 50 grand in the bank right now and you've got no stress in the world, then fucking great. That's great for you, and that's a fantastic way of doing things. And I will get to that point, but it's not now. We're probably about five plus years away from that for me.
I think that it built, like, there's a big thing to be said for building time, right? And if you want to run your store and it kind of again, like, this comes back around to how you want your store to look and what position you want to be in. But I genuinely don't think that, except for realistically get yourself in a pickle, which I think you can only do if you make some very poor decisions. If you keep doing the same thing that works, then realistically you should. If you're in a position where you're happy with how your store's running and you're comfortable and you kind of want to leave it there and you want to build it up a little bit and it kind of like sits on top of each other, you put stuff to the side, that builds up, life's good, and you're building yourself for the future in a comfortable position. That's great, like, all well and good and a very good way to do things. But if you're in build mode, you can balls to the wall, go for it, right?
It's like the same thing, right? Like if you look at the way that you've done things, right? You've gone up to 10 a day and you've sat there. I want to say 12 months, right? Like probably maybe a little bit longer, 12 months, right? But you could. So in my head, the way that I'm doing it is I've gone from 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 to 25 to 30, and then back down to 20, right? But if I wanted to now, I could sit at 20 and be in a better position than you were at 10, right? Yeah, theoretically, yeah. But if you'd have gone from 10 to 15 to 20, then you could have stayed there for 12 months and would have been in a better position. Or you could do the bit in which you want to get to. So in my head, it's 30. 30 is where I want to be at, right? So when I get to 30, there might be a bit in my brain that goes, oh, if we stay at the same amount of cost of goods and we stay at the same amount of sales, this is how much money we're going to make. Let's just build that up for 6 to 12 months. There might be a switch in my brain at that point. But at this moment in time, that is not the number I want to settle on. 30 is the number I want to settle on right now. So in my head, I'm just speed running it to there. I could now sit at 20 for the next 12 months, which is what my plan was at the start of the year, but my brain got bored. It started this year, could have stayed at 20 and done that for the entire year, build up a cash flow and then move on. And maybe it would be easier to do that. But I'm not in the business of it being easier. I'm in the business of getting it done. I'll be at 30 by the end of this year. And then I can decide we can decide what we want to do at that point. So, like, I mean, 50 or so, 50 or so a day is the aim, but it's just a very difficult process without any contacts. Like when you're sourcing sporadically and kind of all over the place, it becomes more difficult to be consistent. When the car boots come back, I'm going to be able to start trying to build those relationships with the people that I had relationships with, and I can really make those and try and do it in a better way, because I felt like last year I was maybe pushing them. So like they were asking for 10 and I was selling it for 35 and I was going, oh, can you do it for 8? But this year I'm thinking, no, if they ask for 10, I'm not going to do it. Basically, I'm not going to try, like with the people I work with, I'm not going to try and knock them down. I'm either going to buy it or I'm not. That's kind of like the way that it's going to go. Yeah, I'm going to try and be a much better buyer for them, because for some reason they've stopped contacting me. So I need to work out why and do a better job of being able to keep those. So that's the plan. I
mean, okay, going back to that quickly though, right? So obviously you said you got for 5 to 10 to 20 to 30 or whatever. It's interesting because I think building your cash flow to grow your business has a different purpose, right? So if I hadn't have built mine, I would not have been able to do any of the stuff I have, realistically.
No, absolutely, yeah.
Which is interesting. And I don't get me wrong, I didn't do that on purpose. So I didn't go, okay, I need to build money right now because I've got stuff I want to do and it requires larger amounts of money. Realistically, when I was going, I was like, oh, I I don't want to redeploy this into anything in particular right now that feels really good. Like I didn't know what I was going to do or what I was like why I was sitting there. I was like, I don't feel like I want to grow into any of these things I'm looking at right now. But then in the last, for example, and a lot of this came from going on holiday and stuff like this and paying for expensive things for the most part. But it allowed me to do these expensive things that I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise, which is like a whole different part of life than business, if that makes sense. But I got up to like 30K at one point, and then I've gone all the way back down to I think 12 now, because I've paid on a load of expensive things, took 6 months off, invested a load of money into something, all this sort of thing to hopefully, for example, be in the same position you are in a completely different fashion by the end of the year, right? And I could hopefully be in a way better position than I hope to be.
I think this is the great thing about conversations and just talking to other people, because everybody's mind is slightly different, and the way that they would do things. Like you've got Kaylee and the likes doing Vinted on a smaller store size, but just concentrating on faster sell-through rates. And then you've got me trying to do what I'm trying to do, you doing a completely different model. Like, and I think that's why it's interesting, because you can have like so many different ways of doing things, but ultimately everybody's getting it done regardless. And I think that's one of the most fascinating things, because people will say that reselling's boring and there's kind of like only one way to skin a cat with reselling, but I disagree massively. I think there's so many different ways of doing it, and people need to think out the side of the box a little bit more to capitalize on.
There's so many ways to do it and so many opportunities. Okay, let me just go back and check what we've missed.
This is why I said it. I
didn't have a topic for the podcast yesterday. In terms of like, it's funny. I feel like we covered this podcast sometimes. Go, I don't know what we're going to talk about this week for the whole time, and then we just end up ranting for like 30 minutes at a time. Just going back. Okay, where did we get to? So Emily says your house, do what you want. Andrew's always team Chris.
Thank you.
Jay said a death pile and a queue are totally different things. Facts. For example, interesting. I had a massive death pile, right? Like I had if you look to my left a couple of months ago, there was a pile sky high of clothing, and now I have nothing. And I have no clothes anywhere, because it was a queue for the future, and it all got worked through systematically. Katie asked the same question I did in terms of time. That's kind of been retro Sheller said it's kind of been me the last 2 years, but you are bedroom instead. That this is officially built in the garden though. That's kind of me for the last 2 years, but
it's basically his bedroom and not the front room. So he's basically building an office in the garden, and it's not his front room that gets covered in stock, it's his bedroom instead.
Okay, go. I feel like, where'd you sleep? In that situation, like the front room's different, but if you're taking up the sleeping space, then you've got a real issue on your hands. Once you've established, how long do you think it'll be before you want to change something else? I think the answer to that, Andy, was until he's done.
Basically, until I don't want to anymore is the actual answer.
He doesn't have an answer. It's go time till it's not.
It is go time till it's not. That's exactly it.
If your brother's still doing clothing, are you doing electronics, and is he learning electronics? Is your brother doing electronics as well? So I do a lot of because electronics are so much quicker to list, because it's a lot less keyword based. I'm doing most of them myself. Some of them I can't be bothered, but some of them I will just list myself because it's easier for me. I'll just whip it through on my phone, upload the photos, and because I list 20 sets of clothing. If I haven't listed any electronics for a while, what I'll tend to do is I will just photo the electronic after cleaning it and testing it, and then I will just upload it, because I'm trying to go past the 20 every day anyway. So I'm just adding a few electronics every day when I can get around to doing the testing and stuff. I don't know if we kind of covered this. Kaylee said, have you thought about taking a step back and looking at sourcing because it doesn't seem maintainable? So that would generally be a question. I mean, I feel like we kind of covered it, but I don't really think so. Is obviously, like I said, time-wise, you don't have the way you're doing things. It doesn't seem like you have all the time in the world to be able to do stuff. And a large part of that is because of the sporadicness of your sourcing in terms of what and how you're buying things. do you not see that being a problem going forward if you do want to scale because of how your sourcing works, and maybe you need to figure out?
Absolutely, but you again. The reason why I'm being sporadic is because I'm trying to do the next level before I'm at the next level, right? So I'm trying to push through so that I can get to the next level before I'm even really there. We've spoken about it in the group, but I've obviously got ideas of who to contact and where to contact to get more consistent supplies of stock and stuff like that. And that will come. But at that point, I need space. So I'm trying to fast track it. And also, one of the great things about the way that I'm sourcing currently is that you can literally go in and buy the best stuff. It costs more, but so for instance, the Panasonic brand new boxed Panasonic DVD rewriter thing, I paid £120 all in for that, and it sold for 300. So after fees, it's 270. So it's 100 and whatever it is paying profit after everything. So realistically, like I'm paying more, but I'm making more is essentially the way with the electronics. And then obviously you're focusing on sell-through rate as well, which is what I've done massively with like coffee machines, etc. But yes, you need to get a better sourcing method, like long term.
I agree.
So I've gone and worked on, but there's a few stipulations and a few things that make that difficult currently.
Yeah, I do think space is an interesting part of that, because even on my side right now, I mean, if I was telling people this, it wouldn't be an issue. But no, I'm not telling people this, so it doesn't mean it be an issue. But I'm concerned about my space being able to process what I'm going to have coming in, which is clothes versus electricals, which is like a whole different size of thing to deal with, in terms of the amount you get in and how big and how much space it's going to take. And then Kate's going to ask us questions again later. Okay. Andrew says space does improve efficiency a lot. Picking orders is a lot takes them a lot longer now. I have a smaller space. So that's interesting. Yep. Do you think is that just because you have to fit the same amount of stuff in a smaller space, so it's all more compiled and you can't see stuff?
You even take it. So I've got two desks downstairs, like packing benches, and they're meant to go in the unit. So that at the moment, the unit, basically, my computer desk holds one screen on it, and that's the size of the desk I've got to pack my items in the unit. So it takes Tasha longer because she's got less space in the unit to have it organized and be able to pack it efficiently. So even just doing that instantly improves. That would improve the packing by probably 10 to 15 minutes because it's just easier to get everything done and it's more efficient. So just small things like a genuine, as well as anybody, like you take the lanyards, like it doesn't improve anything other than the fact you don't have to put your phone in your pocket. But how much better do you feel when you're using it?
That's great.
Big
fan of the lanyard.
Yeah, it is the smallest change in the world, but it saves you those seconds every time, and it makes you feel like you're being more efficient, and it makes it flow. The flow. It doesn't even have to make you more efficient. It just makes it flow better, and when it flow better, you're in a better state of mind, and you can work better.
I also think I think flow and efficiency are like hand in hand.
Yeah.
Streamlining process will lead to increased productivity. I just said, question: how about flipping things that don't need storage, like buying houses at auction and flipping them? That is a whole
different thing.
Wow. So actually, this is interesting. I watched a video literally yesterday, on a guy who owns 16 properties, and he's like 27 or something like that. And he literally broke down all his numbers of exactly. I actually showed it to you because it's kind of interesting of how he started and like what sort of things he was doing. For example, like he started off by buying a 1-bed flat, smashing out the kitchen, putting the kitchen in the living room and converting it to a 2-bed flat. And then he broke down like how much money he had left invested, how much he was actually getting cash flow wise in terms of each month. And it was like $6,000 for the year or something. But he also had 31,000 invested. So it was like a 6-year payoff, but it increased in value over 3 years. So he sold it. It is a whole thing, and I feel like it's nowhere near as good sometimes in terms of what it's made out to be.
It's harder to scale, and it's harder to get. But once you get to like 20 to 25 properties, you're minted. Let's be honest, you're minted at that point. But I think it's harder to scale than what we currently do.
I also think it looks more appealing than it was really interesting watching. I share the video at some point because it's him getting a realistic breakdown, and he tried to scale right. Like his version was to go bigger and bigger in terms of properties, And then the last one, it was like a whole house, and he tried to convert it to 6 flats. And he ended up only being able to convert it to 5, and his cash flow from it a month was like £600 on like $1 million down. And it was fucking crazy. But he did it like it was a learning experience and stuff like that. Property is not hard to scale in terms of what just having more. I mean, I guess there isn't, to be honest with you, because you can, in terms of there's always just more available, and you can just.
I think it's more cash flow to be able to buy the stuff, right?
That's the hard part, is having the money to be able to scale it, compared to buying more pieces of clothing. They require very different amounts of cash flow. Andrew said he commuted 15 minutes each way and he hated it, which is interesting. I don't think that's too bad at all. And then Kaylee, I just like to point this. I don't know if Kaylee's spoken since she hasn't. But Kaylee said, no, I'm moving up to 30 before summer. I'm just doing it differently. So just mark that down, 30 before summer. Just to put some that I don't like in the slightest, but 30 before summer. So how many months we got? How many months we got till summer? When does summer start? Someone tell me.
When does summer even start?
I don't know. But 30 before summer, lovely. Look forward to seeing that back in action. If you don't build up reserve, done that. Matt's warehouse is 25 miles away.
If that's motorway, that's only 30 minutes. But it depends how, like, if it's an hour.
I think he's in Guildford near me, so it could be just a straight.
If it's all motorways and stuff,
a dual carriageway.
Well, I know Matt from the group, and he also goes to the unit like 3 times a week, or 4 times a week. So he doesn't have to go. He's not going every day, I don't think. Which is, did he say 4? I think he said 3 or 4 times a week. So ultimately, it's not an everyday commute, at least.
Matt said you have to have butterflies to move to the next level. Kickluck says I agree with Chris once again.
I don't know what Kickluck's name is, but I like that guy or lady. I don't know. Sorry.
Number 1 fan.
I like you.
I have my opinions as a way to cut costs that need to be done, or a change to make it worth our while, which would either save money or get us back more time.
He's trying to work, basically talking about you can make more money, but it would cut costs, profits, because you could just employ somebody to do something. So obviously at the moment, I could theoretically we could employ my daughter to do postage and pictures, right? And then we could focus on the sourcing side of things and the electricals and stuff like that. So there's ways to do it, but obviously that costs us more money. And as a current 3-man team, then we probably shouldn't be employing anybody for a little while anyway until we're at the next level. But there's definitely ways to do it.
I actually think about it. The one thing I would say is that the only problem with running on a hamster wheel is I think you can get yourself caught in a position. So for example, I think that one of the big issues with running on a hamster wheel is it doesn't give you time to think or change much, and your business ends up being run in a way. Do you know?
Me? You don't think I think about things and I change things? I do that all the time.
No, but if you get to for example, you haven't been able to get rid of and won't be able to get rid of vintage sourcing for quite a while.
Vintage sourcing.
I know, but this is my point being is you're running on the hamster wheel, right? And you're building up with certain methods. And because you need those methods to keep fueling themselves instead of having any sort of safety blanket to continue. If you don't have those methods, you become reliant, and therefore it becomes very hard to escape whatever it is you build with, which is a different problem in itself. And you can get yourself stuck in the corner of sourcing or being reliant on certain things to keep the hamster wheel flying if you don't have the safety net or don't have the build up to be able to breathe and change or adapt what you want to do. I think that's actually probably the main problem with being on a hamster wheel is
in terms of vintage. Like, I understand that from when I was charity shopping all the time. Like, I understand that being the hamster wheel of the 9 to 5, Monday to Saturday. I was doing it for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that being a hamster wheel because you don't have enough time in the day to get to as many charity shops, and the hit rate is a much a lower percentage in general, and you can't pick the items that you're looking at. But I don't think that there is a better, like, in my opinion, there isn't a better option right now for sourcing than vintage. So, like, realistically, it's not hamster wheel that I want to jump off anytime soon.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, I'm not saying it is, right? I'm just saying the problem would be if that is what you're reliant on, it'd be very hard to jump off if you ever wanted to.
The hamster wheel for me, like in terms of like detriment, would be the fact that I'm still sourcing at auctions and stuff like that, and I need to be able to maintain that. So when am I going to find time to do the electronic side, which is my job, right? Which is to find more electronic contacts. I get that part of it, but when I'm at car boots and stuff, this year is dedicated to trying to build something. So I'm really going to work harder and much better at trying to deal with that. In fact, I've got a lady who sells electronics to Africa, and I've worked with her before, and I've picked up some pieces from before. But we sort of like, she's about an hour and a half away from here, so we've sort of parted ways. But I know full well that if I picked up the phone, she'd be good to go again. So that might be something that I go with next year, and then I don't have to do all of the auctions and stuff like that if I can get enough off her. So yeah.
And then where to get to, and then properties. It's not hard to scale, and then I think it's just Shells and Andrew having a little chat in the side about spreadsheets. I'll just quickly say the point of what the topic was of this podcast was meant to be that, hey, I went back to charity shops for the first time in 6 months. It was it was basically the gist of things. It was just super interesting in terms of do, but I mean, it wasn't massively different, but the stuff that I got it reminded me how good it can be. And in terms of disregarding that stuff, I went for one day, I picked up 25 items, I think, although I had to put some in the donation pile because they're marked, and I'm not fucking with anything that's realistically good.
Oh, what can you try it now?
Yeah, but it's not like marks will come off. It's like annoying things. And even, for example, one of them is missing, like one pair of the jeans is missing the top button, and I missed that somehow, which is impressive, which I always did with charity shops. But yeah, it was interesting. Just at the moment, I need to go back to charity shopping to fill a void, and there's some more stuff I could talk about in terms of like the problems I'm facing switching methods right now, which is been quite interesting. And how for the moment I have to go back to charity shopping to cover my bases whilst that transition takes place better in terms of
I also went to charity shops the same day as you, and I also did very well. So people say that charity shops are dead, but I haven't been for a very long time.
It was funny. I actually only felt they were dead when I was the one fucking taking all the stuff from, and then when I go back the next time I was already gone because I took it off.
I think it's like, you know, when you have a route and you go like once a week or twice a week or something like that. You're like, oh, fucking hell, these charity shops are getting worse and worse. It's because you bought it all already.
I know.
You know what I mean?
I don't go for like a few weeks. I'm like, wow, this place is actually pretty good.
I haven't been to this town that I went to the other day for like ages. And then I was like, oh yeah, I'll rock up and see what's happening. I came away with like 20 pieces, 15 to 20 pieces. I had £150 pair of shoes for a £5. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's just insane the amount of things that you can actually find when you're not there rinsing it yourself.
I'm sure I will also need to fight with you at some point after this in terms of how many of your things have sold and versus how many of my things are sold from the haul the other day. But thank you very much for coming, everybody. Appreciate you as always. And we will see you next week. Thank you very much. Bye.